Week's local marketing update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter at ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/ScottPGallagher.
Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source for our weekly local industry update. Now, next week's LMS member call with live questions is going to be March 27th. That's Wednesday, March 27th at 4 o'clock Eastern. And today, we've got quite a bit to cover today for this week's update. And we got some good tips and a few things going on in the Facebook group. But just to give you a quick overview of the updates that I'm going to be talking about today is some testing that's been going on between the HTML markup language of Authorship versus Subjectship. A little bit about Google penalizing an article on the world's largest news site, being BBC's website. Some more tools being added to big Webmaster tools, video snippets versus author images, which have higher click-through rates, so that's going to be a really relevant study. An additional study here of Google's Penguin. It's getting stricter as time goes on. As well as one of the new updates, we're going to talk about update number 25 that has probably been hit but not confirmed by Google, and that Google has come out and publicly said that they're unlikely to confirm any current or future Panda updates. As we're going to finish up our update overview of this week, I'm going to talk a little bit about AdWords. From eBay. eBay's got some opinions on AdWords and how and what eBay has said about organic results versus paid results on the Google search engine. And then finally, some conversion numbers from a particular study. So, there's 10 different items that we're going to get through. So it's a busy week this week. Now, for the tips this week, remember last week, for a local business, we talked about local networking for getting different citations and different rankings. But this week, I want to get a little bit back to video and different content it's created. And we're going to talk about 5 key videos that a local business should create over the next 90 days. Now, local internet marketing agency tip of last week, we talked about local networking to create a seminar for free that includes hosting and food and all of that. And this week, I want to talk about client expectations, and then when you deliver the results and how clients should expect to build that long-term relationship. We're going to take a look at a famous business, which is actually the richest business in the world, and their simple little strategy, and that would be Steve Jobs' strategy of under-promise and over-deliver. Now, there's a few things going on in the LMS member Facebook group this week. There's been some good back and forth discussion, from Scott Meadows, and I see that he's on the line today as well, regarding reputation management as well. Tisha, big shout out to you for your communication in the Facebook group, and lots of good stuff going on in there. So definitely get in there and participate and check it out. Now, I had mentioned for a weekly local business tip, videos, 5 simple videos. Let me get through this real quick. Video number 1, a walkthrough video. You can pretty much create a walkthrough video for any type of business. Record 2 to 5 minutes of walking through that office. Take that video, compress it into 20 or 30 seconds, add a little bit of music. You've got a walkthrough video. Testimonial video number 2. Get at least 3 people saying good things about the business on a video testimonial. Video number 3, the CEO, the doctor, the entrepreneur, the owner, somebody that speaks about themselves and their passion that they have for that particular business. Video number 4, a marketing video that discusses the business overview itself, not their core product or service, but a marketing style video that talks about the business itself, their culture and their energy and what they've got. And then video number 5, a technical video that highlights their core product or their core service. So there you go. You got 5 videos, really easy to create. Try to get those in for local businesses over the next 90 days. And use those 5 videos on their profiles and throughout. Now for our weekly update. One thing I didn't mention, and I threw in at the last minute, and I'm going to talk about it today, is Forbes. Forbes being a very prominent business magazine, and they published something that said, you know, what to watch for in 2013 for local. I'm going to highlight a few of them. I think you should definitely go and check that out. Just do a quick search for Forbes and local 2013, and you will be able to find the article. First thing, they say that the number of small and medium businesses with mobile websites is going to triple this year. That's a pretty big claim, but it's very likely. Right now, you're looking at 7% of businesses have mobile websites, which is going to bring it to about 20%. They really knocked Facebook advertising, that this year it's going to flop even more for local businesses and really not demonstrate any value for local businesses. National brands are going to become local or increasingly local. Google, yeah, it's going to remain on the dominant horizon, but they go on to say that SEO is going to get more complex. I still find it interesting that a mainstream publication like Forbes is looking at Google and they say, you know, SEO, Google is making search engine optimization more complex, will be increasingly difficult to get on the top of almost constant changes that impact rankings, something that we already know in 2012 when Google introduced Penguin and Panda. Well, it's interesting that Forbes' perspective is still looking at SEO from a technical game, that it's our job to understand and maneuver based off of the algorithmic updates. Well, it's not our job to understand those algorithmic updates. It's our job to create effective and quality transparency and exposure for these local businesses, which in turn is not a search engine optimization. As a matter of fact, I just watched a video of Matt Cutts that he was approached and figured that I should remember his term that he thinks it should be called for effective quote-unquote SEO. And then Forbes talked a little bit about some of the IPOs of some local businesses, like not local businesses, online businesses of tech companies like Square and Yext that are very strong candidates to go public. See, Scott, you've got your hand up already. You know, normally we do get the questions at the end. If this is something that you're adding to the discussion or a question that you'd like answered, oh, I see it's down. You can leave it up. Just knowing that you're first in line is always awesome. We got other people that have typed in questions nonetheless, so I'll get to those. But yeah, we got quite a bit of an update. So yeah, if you want to raise that later, that's cool too. So Bing is testing something called Subjectship rather than Authorship in the search results now. And we all know what authorship is and getting author images. We also know, I've talked about click-through rates, massive difference if you haven't, as well as ranking impacts. So what Bing is discussing with Subjectship is really, you can still tie a facial aspect, but it's not tied to a specific person. And so my blog may be about internet marketing. Well, they're capturing this information through Facebook and through Facebook's knowledge graph and providing different aspects of a different type of experience on a subject. So it's something to watch. Bing does not have a massive market share compared to Google. None of my sites have Subjectship on it at this point in time, but I do know that it impacted ranking and click-through rate. It is something that's going to be implemented immediately. Just a quick note here, Google penalizing BBC. It was basically, it just came down to one article, and they received an unnatural link notification. The article was penalized and removed out of Google's index, and it's just a demonstration that Google can penalize a specific web page or a section of a website rather than the entire site itself as well. So that's some very relevant information to note and make note of what transpired there when the SEO community went and looked at that site and that particular page. It went beyond the threshold of 20% of disavowed or links that are not preferred. Bing is adding more tools to their Webmaster. They announced a new feature for their Webmaster tools, and it's the ability to inform Bing of a particular site move. It's a nice little tool to have. It just allows you to utilize 301 redirects in different ways. Again, Bing is slowly capturing more and more market share. It's becoming more and more important for us to understand. You should absolutely have a working knowledge of the Webmaster tools for Bing. Obviously not for Yahoo, and definitely for Google. So there's different ways that you can tell the search engine on moving from one domain to moving a site from one domain to a different domain, or moving content within the same domain itself. Now here's a really good study brought out by Mike Blumenthal regarding video snippets versus author images. Now, you take, for example, your listings ranking 1, 2, and 3, and we know that each of those listings have click-through rates. Well, those click-through rates have been impacted over the years, and especially have been impacted when you get authorship images in the rankings. That would be, for example, listing number 3 has an authorship, but listing 1 and 2 does not. Which of the listings are going to get the highest click-through rates? Well, studies say that listing number 1 still has the highest click-through rate, but listing number 3 with the authorship is significantly higher than number 2. And so just that in itself, when we looked at different heat maps, can clearly understand that authorship images have higher click-through rates. But how does that compare to a video snippet? Well, a video snippet looks a lot like a listing with an authorship. And so the hypothesis is the click-through rate impacted in the same way? Or what's the true impact of video snippet click-through rates and search quality for local businesses? Well, the study utilized attorneys. And what it really comes down to, authorship, at the end of the study, it says that authorship snippets have greater positive impact on click-through rates for specific types of searches. But video snippets have greater impact on click-through rates for specialty attorney searches that have no other types of media snippets. So in some cases, one's better than the other, but video snippets are a less of a positive impact than authorship snippets. If it's one or the other and you have that choice, and authorship snippets fits in place, it's your better choice. If not, video content on that page, and if you can't get an authorship snippet because it's not appropriate for that particular page, can you get video content on there? And if you can, then get it. And ultimately, maybe that it turns out that a page is either should have authorship or should have a video snippet, HTML markup wrapped around the video, one or the other. And if that page can't have one or the other, then it might not be a page that's relevant to show consumers. To me, that's what I believe. That's what I think it's coming down to. Study has come out and it finds that Google's Penguin update is getting stricter over time. Essentially, this is coming from the percentage of negative links pointing to a particular page. And we know that there's certain thresholds as to what type of spammy links a page can stand. Well, rather than just looking at this from a complete narrow sense that it is just a specific percentage, we do have to understand that maybe page rank of the domain name itself, maybe authority within the authorship also play factors in the weight that a percentage of spam links can be a website can ultimately withstand. But we've got to make an assumption and pick a number somewhere on the average, of course with a variance, plus or minus, but we're looking to have the question answered as to what tolerance the average website can have in terms of spammy links. And if you've done article marketing, especially with auto distribution software or used products like Traffic Geyser, you can bet your dollar that you've fired spammy links to that particular website. There's no question in that. It's not to say that all article marketing tactics are going to give you spammy links. And if you're marketing through eZine, for example, well, you're not going to have spammy links, especially if they're approving all those articles being sent. And so the study has taken a look at the top 50 websites on Inc. 5000 list, and it showed that 36 of the 50 really have less than 10% of their links coming from questionable sources. Well, these guys are ranking very well, so we know 10% is okay. A fifth of the sites, or 20% of the websites, had to be found between 11 and 40% of their links being spam. And so, that's bringing us up to about 95% of all businesses that are out there that are currently ranking. And so 4 of the websites had over 40% of their links, and they still maintained some ranking. Well, these figures have changed over time, and they measured that between April of 2012 and December of 2012. And that number and that percentage of links that had spammy links was 80 all the way back in April. And so it appears that the threshold of Google Panda Penguin updates are now allowing somewhere around a 50% threshold. Well, I know that my sites could not sustain that, and so the figure lies somewhere between 20 and 50. But the question really becomes what is Google's tolerance for spam link going to be? Is it going to be 20% across the board or 5%? We don't know, and that's something we want to watch. Again, with that, there was a update that the SEO community has agreed upon, but Google has come out and said, we're not confirming it, and we're not going to probably be able to confirm any more updates. The reason is because their gradual rollout is of Panda is rolled out right into their search bots on a real-time basis, and so we'll see things happen in real time as websites are being crawled. eBay has come out and said that AdWords is ineffective. This story is creating a lot of buzz and controversy in our industry. It's really cool because they're arguing that search engine marketing has little to no impact. It's worthless on traffic and sales, except in very marginal cases. Of course, Google is firing back and saying otherwise, that they've got the figures and the data to prove otherwise. But eBay has actually published this and said that when it compares its paid search ads on its organic traffic and sales, the majority of their business comes directly from all of their organic listings, including words of branded keywords and short tail and long tail keywords. Basically cover the gamut of keywords. Another study that I found interesting is that 55% of mobile conversion-driven websites for all types of local businesses, that conversion happens within 60 minutes or less. In other words, that tells me as a marketer that mobile-based websites have to have clear call to action to create communication, to create that engagement, and not fluffy engagement with social sites, but direct engagement. Because a higher percentage of mobile searchers have commercial intent. At least that's what this data is telling us. This is a Google Nielsen study. Very reputable organizations, both of them, and they provided a great deal of data. They also said that 73% of mobile searches trigger a follow-up action. Well, that's that communication, that engagement, that connection, and the ability to do that, whether it's a click-to-call feature for Android devices or Skype, easy to navigate and find phone numbers, maybe even have the ability to provide instant video conferencing. 63% of mobile searches triggered action within 1 hour of the initial search. 45% of mobile searches are conducted to help make buying decisions. When in a store and they do a particular search, though, that jumps up to 66%. And at the end of the day, 28% of all searches, more than 1/4, 1 out of 4 searches results in a local conversion. 1 in 4 searches results in a local conversion. Now, for all the internet marketers on the line right now, that's an extremely important figure that you should probably drill in your head. You work things backwards. We know click-through rates, we know volume, and we can make estimations with an educated guess as to volume of searches. And now, from a Google Nielsen report, 1/4 of those searches are going to result in a particular conversion. Well, when you're looking at a specific industry, we can even understand the value of a conversion. In other words, now with this number, this is the key number we've been waiting for, we can make clear estimations on market sizes. For example, I could turn around and with this data, I can now understand how much money is being spent in my zip code for attorney services. How big is that market? So what type of value can you associate to being in spot number 1? What type of value can you associate to being spot number 2? That gives us as internet marketers even another argument and a different way to be able to price our services. We can now price it based off of value entirely. And we could work through those numbers if you'd like, but I really have to move on. So we got some other tips to get on. Well, what's the time? I did go through, I had quite a bit. I did fly through it a little bit faster. So before I get into the tip, let's just kind of work through that a little bit. And I'm going to use a simple example like pizza delivery, okay? And I could do some research and figure out how many searches exist for a particular zip code for all the different combinations and permutations of trying to find pizza. That would be, pizza delivery, maybe even some brand names for a particular geographical area. And let's assume that, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but let's assume that that's 1,000 searches a month for a particular area. We know Google's market share, so the data that they give us, we've got to take market share into account, and they recognize about 70%, excuse me. Once you know the number of searches, well, a pizza organization knows that their average order is going to be $30. And 1/4 of those searches, well, we know that a click-through rate for spot number 1 is going to be 25%. And so a business in spot number 1 is going to get about 250 hits. Knowing that 1/4 of those searches are going to result in a conversion, we're now looking at about 62 purchases at an average sale price of $30. That's about $60 to $75 a day in potential revenue. Understanding that they're variable and fixed costs, but their profit margins are going to be about 30%. You're looking at about $30 or $40 profit, pure profit after expenses per day. Multiply that by 30 days, and that's about $900 to $1,000. And so the profit value of being in spot number 1 is $1,000 with that particular scenario that I used. Of course, again, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air. We've always argued that pizza delivery companies are not the best organizations to go after. The numbers are just small. I'm doing this all in my head and don't have a calculator out. But if you started to look and work backwards, I know that in the courier industry, for example, there's a couple of thousand searches a month, and the average orders are 200 and change. But that's not even incorporating customer value over time. So you could really have some fun with numbers, and I like numbers. All right, well, that comes to the conclusion for this week's update. I'm now going to talk about a local internet marketing agency tip of under promise and over deliver. Well, that has always been Apple's or Steve Jobs' big secret. And it's it works in all facets of our life. Whether it's a relationship that we get into, you start to over deliver or over promise. It makes it very, very easy to under deliver, and you just result in disappointment. So any relationship that you've ever had in your life, whether it's with, kids, watching relationships and relationship behavior with children. I've learned so much in business because of my kids and how they particularly behave. And if you overpromise with kids, it doesn't matter what you deliver to them, they're going to be disappointed. You could be promising them to go to Six Flags in Texas to go see Auntie May that you don't even want to see, but that falls through, and take them to Six Flags and then 2 days in a row in Chicago, and they're going to be disappointed. It doesn't matter how you present it to them. It's the fact that when you take something away of something that's been promised, there's a sense of disappointment regardless. And so in business, if you ever make a particular promise and don't deliver, you've brought yourself further behind, in my opinion, than you were when you started out before you made that promise in the first place. And so it's tough in our business because a lot of our competitors are giving guarantees. You're going to get a guaranteed spot of this or a guaranteed spot of that. And if you don't set up expectations, one smart person told me once that I'll never forget, that false expectations turns into disappointment. And it's our job to properly and clarify those expectations that we provide our clients. And at the end of the day, they want to know numbers of sales. Well, that really gets into some scary areas if you're going to make promises. I just was talking about that, but you've got to really make it clear as to what you're demonstrating to the customer. And when you really want to under promise, you're going to know some of these metrics, and we know that 28% convert. Well, you're only going to use a conversion of 25%. We know that we could probably make a strong argument that there's 10,000 searches per month for a particular keyword and all of its combinations and permutations, but we're going to play with 50% of that. We're going to lower it a little bit. And of course, you've gone through all of these numbers before you speak with the customer and still know that it makes financial sense to them. And when you've demonstrated that at 4 or 5 different spots, you've devalued the conversion numbers a little bit. And you say, look, Mr. Customer, in even one of these little areas, it will increase this number. But even at this scenario, you're still going to get a positive return on investment. Other expectations to discuss are, of course, people naturally assume that the higher they're ranked for their keywords, the more business they're going to get. That's true in a lot of situations. We know that. So those results, ranking results, are also expectations. And, we tell, one of the things we'll tell clients is, you've got to assume that it could take us up to 6 months to get these results. But it is our objective to try and work hard and get you better ranking results in a shorter period of time. And when you come in at the 3rd or the 4th month with results, they're happy. And so the time factor of expectations is important. And then finally, reporting. And one thing that I've learned over the years, one big mistake I made for 4 to 5 years of having my agency, was what we reported to clients. And I really started to learn in 2006 when I was outsourcing, and the outsourcing people I was outsourcing to wouldn't tell me any of the strategies they were doing for SEO because it was proprietary rights. Well, it didn't take me long to realize that that was a big mistake, and it's not a shame to tell our customers what we do. As a matter of fact, we want to tell them what we're doing, everything that we're doing, and it's not a shame to do that. If you're doing your job right, you're going to give them a service that's worthy, and they're going to recognize that for $1,000 a month, they're getting their money's worth. And when you start talking about, you know, we captured 20 profiles, it takes, what, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of your time with emails for each profile once everything is said and done. Or somebody else's time, for that matter, and the video work that you create and the different pieces of content you create and where that's distributed. You know, there's a lot of work that's involved. And so a report that says what you've done is also providing a tremendous amount of benefit to your customers when you've under-promised and over-delivered. All right, well, that comes to the conclusion of the tips as well. And I know that we had, I've got a couple of questions here posted in the group.